Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for staying through the afternoon. Today I'm going to talk to you about the future of crowd investing in real estate on the blockchain. My name is Michael Moll. I come from Vancouver, Canada, and really happy to be here. We have a booth 610. We're here today and tomorrow, so if you want to come talk to us afterwards, we have space at the booth. I'm here with my CEO, Thomas Park, and he's in the front row. So let's get into it. Reitium is a Canadian company. We're based out of Canada, based out of Vancouver. We're a privately held company. We are currently raising money privately from accredited investors, both in the United States, Canada, and Asia, before we actually go into our ICO. So I have a first question for people, just a little bit of audience participation. How many people in this room own real estate, by a show of hands? Okay, we're at probably about 30%. How many people would actually want to own real estate in this room? Interesting, interesting. So if you actually did want to own real estate, then, you know, good for you, congratulations. Real estate is the largest asset class in the world. In fact, it's 277 trillion, you know, give or take 1 or 2 trillion estimation. It's bigger than all the other asset classes combined. So if we look at oil, stocks, gold, and crypto, real estate is bigger than all of them. Now the difference is, stocks are probably the most tradable, the most liquid asset class of all four. Oil is obviously generating and producing, but oil is finite. Real estate is continuously growing. We've only reached about 39% urbanization globally. Every day, 100,000 people leave the village for the city. We'd say by 2050, we'll be about 60% of the world will live in cities. This is a massive, massive, massive opportunity for real estate. We see that 277 trillion is probably going to go up another 30–40% over the next, you know, couple decades. 1.4 trillion gets traded every year. So this is actually the piece of the action that everyone's a part of every year. This is where you can make your fees, or you can run your platforms, or you can participate and capture value. Now, when we go back there for a second, 1.7 trillion, 277 trillion. We haven't even penetrated half of 1% of real estate. And why is that? Because real estate is very, very difficult to trade globally. It's very difficult to move from one person to the other. There's so many middlemen involved that the cost of doing global transactions is just too high for the average person or the average company to actually take advantage. Now, why is this important? Real estate is an amazing store of value, creator of value, and long-term portfolio bet. In fact, 90% of millionaires make their money in real estate. Now, if that's all good, but investing into real estate is really difficult. We named these 4 factors. Money. The amount of down payment you'd need. Was a gentleman we talked to outside. He said he bought a house for $3,000, flipped it for $6,000 20 years ago. Most of our parents will say, oh yeah, I got into the property market, I bought a building for $40,000. Today, property values go up $5,000 a week in the hottest markets in the world. It's very difficult to get in if you don't have that money, if you don't have enough credit, and the ability to get credit, get a mortgage is getting harder and harder as these properties become more expensive. Let's say you already have the money, great. How much time do you have? What's your full-time job? Are you a real estate investor? You know, are you going to be able to actually get the right ROI divided by the amount of time that you actually put in? Let's say you even had the time. Let's talk about access. Here in continental United States, an amazing country, you have so many well-developed cities that it's great. I've heard so many stories of people say, oh, I live in LA, but I own in Phoenix, and you know, I have a rental property in Arizona, blah, blah, blah. But what about people living in Kenya? What about people living in Nicaragua? What about people in different parts of Asia? How do they participate? It's much easier to buy a stock, you know, through an app here, go onto Ameritrade, and you're quickly into an EFT. This financial literacy, or this financial network that we have in the West, is amazing, but this hasn't yet been distributed to the rest of the world, and it's time for the rest of the world to catch up. The last thing is experience. Let's say you had all of those things. How much experience does the average person actually have in investing in real estate and actually getting the right ROI? And so you see a lot of people who start ripping their hair out, being like, I don't want to be a landlord. There has to be a better way. When we look at the people who are actually excluded from real estate investing, these are the 3 segments that we're actually going to be starting with. We look at millennials in the West. The average millennial in the West, let's take America, has about $5,000 saved. They don't think that that's actually enough money for them to participate in the capital economy, whether it be investing in any type of investment, including real estate. So they're spending it on avocado toast, Gucci bags, holidays, the daily luxuries of life, to maintain that living. But even in Japan, they say, this is dead capital or sleeping capital. Seniors, the same thing, people in developing worlds. Deloitte estimates that this is actually $1 trillion worth of capital sitting in bank accounts, under mattresses, in piggy banks, doing nothing, just getting eaten by erosion. And that's where we're going to start. So what's the market opportunity? If we look at all real estate that's currently managed, whether it be a REIT or in a sovereign wealth fund or pension plans, about $7 trillion. Very established market. The cost of doing business quite high. If you want to get into a private REIT, maybe you're going to starting at 25,000. Some of them start at 100,000. The difficulty with this is the amount of money that they take. We met a company in Vancouver, $25,000 buy-in, $3,000 goes to legal and accounting. So when someone says, hey, I have $1,000, you're priced out because they can't even touch customers like that. So they're just literally leaving money on the table. When we look at global millennial savings, that's $1 trillion. We look at US savings, that's $540 billion. If we were to capture just 1% of millennial savings, we could generate $600 million over the next 5 years on our platform. And that's the number we're seeing that this industry of crowdfunding real estate can capture from the globe. And that's just our first starting customer. Once we've proven our system with millennial seniors in the developing world, we'll then quickly switch to servicing investment funds, REITs, broker-dealers, sovereign wealth funds, etc., including developer financing for new builds. So again, those are the problems right there. You ask anyone who's priced out of the market or can't get in, they can relate to any of these, right? Our founder, his mom is 75 years old. She has $40,000, but the banks won't touch her. And so how do we help these people participate? So we got a solution. Reitium is a global real estate investment platform that allows anyone to invest in real estate for as little as $100, choose right down to the individual property, and sell it back to a global marketplace open 24 hours a day. How we solve these solutions? By being global, we actually create two things. One, we create a global source of capital. You may not be able to crowdfund $1 million in your backyard, but you can definitely do $20 million globally. The second thing is global opportunities. By having global opportunities on the platform, we actually create an amazing platform for access and diversified portfolio. In fact, we're going to gamify it. We're going to say, hey, why don't you own a property on every continent? Not only is it good for your clout and showing off at the bar, but it's amazing for a diversified portfolio and actually keeping, hedging your risks. We're compliant, so we can actually take on credit. We can take people's IDs, 20 seconds, scan them through 1,000 databases with our partners, and verify them. We believe most of our customers are going to come from the developing world. Most of our customers are going to be mobile-first users, and so it's an amazing way for us to hopefully onboard millions of users rapidly at a good cost. Secure, blockchain is an amazing tool that actually allows people to trust each other, whether they want to or not, or whether they need to or not. The point is that not only are we partnered with IBM Hyperledger, that gives us an amazing stack to scale from 10,000 users to millions of users, but using the blockchain also allows people to trust that when they bring money from wherever they are in the world and invest into a property, they actually have ownership rights in that property. And affordability with our token, because we're automating a lot of the legal and accounting, we're able to pass that on to the savings onto our customers. So instead of having a $10,000 buy-in, we can do $100. So let's talk about our token. So we have a two-token system. The one token that we're going to do for our ICO, which we're in the process of going through all the legal requirements to launch it as a security. That token for the ICO, you'll invest in our company, you get profit sharing in the company. When we make money, we divide the profit with token holders. The second token in our platform is the token that actually lives in the ecosystem and is used for investing. So these tokens are equity securities. When you hold these tokens and invest them into a specific property, you now have ownership in that property. How it works, you give us $100, we give you 100 tokens. It's one for one until it's invested into a property. You take that $100 and you go through our app experience website, you choose a property, you invest $100. That token's smart contracts automatically signs you on to all the legal agreements binding you to being a partial owner of that property. Now, this is 100% asset backed. What do we mean by this? This means that your $100 is $100 worth of that underlying asset. Your tokens are now locked into that asset, and the tokens only fluctuate with the underlying value of the asset. So how we do this every month is an index that gives an estimated appraisal or depreciation in your asset, and we list that. Every 3 months, we do an independent appraisal, and then that actually is put into the blockchain and says, now your shares and your tokens and property is worth this much. Let's say you bought into at 100, the thing goes up 10%. You can now sell the $10 appreciation, you can sell $50, you can sell $100, all in real time on our platform to anyone in the world without ever having to meet them. If you sold it to George Clooney, amazing. He doesn't have to trust you, he can trust us, he can trust the chain, and boom, you found liquidity. So when we look at our architecture, real estate is complicated, it is tricky. We're using a special purpose vehicle. So what's happening here, and it's just not as good, but we take properties, we put them into a trust company and special purpose vehicle, we list the shares of that trust company onto our platform. People buy those shares using tokens, and then they're able to secondary trade them. But all this is all great and complex, but let's talk about what the user sees. Because we want a seamless user experience for people to, on their phone, wherever they are in the world, to quickly look through properties and buy them. And what better experience than a Tinder card experience? Go. Sorry, no sound. Sorry about that. No sound. Sorry.
Go. You like a hand model?
They don't want my face, right?
Around them and one-click purchase them. And we think people are going to fall in love with this experience. And we think from the toilet to the bus to when you're at work and you're bored, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be putting your money in asset-backed real estate. So just to recap on all those benefits, a global marketplace, an affordable entry point, vetted properties. We're starting in Vancouver, BC, where we have over 14 years experience in real estate, selling over $500 million of real estate, and we know that market like the back of our hand. So we want to give people a self-serve investing solution to be directly picking the properties and the assets they want to be a part of. So again, making it accessible, making it easy, making it a great experience. How it works: fully compliant, you load your money, you do your ID check, you then load your money. When we load your money, we have a partner from the world that can take almost any currency or any crypto and send it to us in US dollars, convert it and send it to US dollars within 6 hours for about 0.7%. And so this is really great for us to be able to load in. Once they go through, they browse their properties. Because they've done anti-money laundering, because they've done their ID verification, they can one-click invest and we sign them onto that property. They hold it for a couple days so we make sure everything's good, and then they're able to sell it back to the marketplace if they choose. Every month, they're able to get rental income. So if you own 10% of a property, when the rental income comes in after all the fees, you actually get a deposit of 10%. So this is an income-generating, asset-backed investment, and we think people are going to love it. So this is how our typical short-term deal works. We crowdfund $1 million, short-term rental. After that, we can get an 8% return. That's cash from the income generated from the property, and that is distributed between token holders. Then imagine the market that it does in Vancouver goes up about 10%. People are able to see that 10% appreciation, hold, reinvest their dividends, or fractionally decide what they want to do with that property. Let's look at another model. This is the model that people all over the world who have capital, who understand leverage, have been using and making great gains, including our CEO, Thomas Park. So if you look at 3 properties, instead of putting $1 million on one property, we take out a mortgage across 3 properties. Each property then does an 8% return. The first 2 properties, 8% return, that's 16%, pays for the mortgage and all the fees. The people who hold in there still get the 8% cash return, but they're going to get 10% ROI across 3 properties. It's a stock split, so they're getting 30% appreciation on their properties. So this is the second type of deal we're going to be doing. The other type of deals we'll be doing, again, will be deals for third parties to come in and do new build construction financing, commercial real estate financing. We'll be doing white labels for sovereign wealth funds, REITs, both public and private, as well as pensions and governments. So let's talk about our revenue model. So we have many revenue models for the platform, but the one we're going to focus on now is our main revenue model that we'll be focusing on for the next year. So we make 3% transaction buy and sell. So how that works is, imagine we did 25 properties, 2,500 properties, average price $2,500. We're estimating that we'll sell those properties once. Those are $2,500 million properties. So we'll sell those properties once, and then 30% of the shares in each property will be resold every year. And that's just an estimation. We have an analysis, a scenario analysis that people can look at later. So we're looking at about $110 million of revenue just off 2,500 properties. Long term, when we open up our platform to different vendors all around the world, we think that in 5 years, we can hit $1 billion in revenue on the platform from only 20,000 properties. And we think that's a drop in the ocean for the amount of potential that this industry has, and especially when we can white label and open this up to bigger groups, we're very excited about how much income we can generate for both our token holders as well as our equity shareholders. Our launch market, as I said, is in Vancouver, Canada. We're going to start there where we can vet properties, and then we're looking to expand our network of real estate agents and investment partners all around the world. So if anyone is interested in being a part of that, please come and talk to us. We have a very diverse team from all over the world. Really excited to be working with some very, very smart people. We have Luke Shim in Korea. He's the Canadian liaison there, and he's facilitating a couple ICOs that have raised about $7 million in a couple of days. We have people from Canada who are mining experts, understanding infrastructure. Chris Constable is a security expert. He works with governments all over the world. Most notably, our CEO, Thomas Park. He's been in real estate for 14 years. He was in technology before that, sold over $500 million of real estate. He's a specialist, and so he's going to be helping us pick the properties in the beginning. After that, we'll be mixing both our network of real estate agents, business analysts, investment analysis with an AI that we're going to be building in collaboration with IBM Watson. So that way we can actually have a score for every property, an investment score. Andrew Gillette is our technical advisor and blockchain developer. Andrew Gillette was one of the 8 founding developers of the Ethereum platform. Most notably, he's currently working alongside our project on the Project Jasper. So Project Jasper is the Bank of Canada's interbank transfer. So they are using blockchain to do instant settlements of checks. So he's the architect on that platform. So he's bringing the same level of sophistication to our platform, and we couldn't be happier to actually have him on board. Alex Ugalov has about 8 years experience in marketing. He runs his own company out of San Francisco and Russia, about 25 staff members. He's done 6 ICOs, 4 of them averaging about $20 million. So we're very excited to have him as our partner. He's got a lot of PR connections, and he's really been in the crypto space for a long time. Co-founder of the Blockchain Association of Russia, so we're very excited to see the connections that he'll be bringing to us over this next year. So let's look at our roadmap. So we closed our friends and family round. Our first property will be available. So we have a stock of 10 properties in Canada. Our first property will be available to be crowd invested this July. Then we will be looking at November as when our first version of the platform is open. By that time, depending on our partnerships, we're definitely having properties all in Canada. Depending on our partnerships, we'll see if we launch with properties in the United States. Just over this conference, we've met a whole group of people who are really interested in partnering with us, and so we'll be definitely updating this timeline as we go through. The same thing for expanding to the Asian market and the European market. That's all pending partnerships. We really believe that our pillars are compliance, vetted properties, and an amazing user experience. And so we're not going to rush any of those segments just to onboard new areas. We want to take this slowly and seriously. So our ask, we will be going and launching a security token ICO. We're looking at about 5 jurisdictions right now, just doing the cost-benefit analysis, both being Canada, Gibraltar, Switzerland, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. But right now, we're actually raising common share equity in our company. So it's a $5 million round, $20 million valuation. It's 50 cents a share right now, but we're also giving the option as a convertible note as well as a SAFT agreement. It can only be accredited investors out of the United States, so please come talk to us if you're interested. We got our booth 610 again. My name is Michael Moll, I'm the CTO, and thank you for listening to our presentation.